Namaste everyone. Um, in this video, I'd like to share with you the Vishnu Sahasranama Saram. So, what is the essence of this very popular stotra called the Vishnu Sahasranamam? Now, the Vishnu Sahasranamam properly belongs to what we would call the Bhakti Marg, the path of devotion, which is a very direct way to both know the truth, uh, attain Brahmagyan, and also know the Lord, which is the same thing. So, this Bhakti Marg works directly through the heart. And since everyone has a heart, regardless of how refined their intellect may be, it is a universally applicable and direct approach on the path of sadhana. So now again, let's discuss a little bit who is the Adhikari. So as I mentioned, because of its universal appeal, anyone who has devotion to the Lord Vishnu can undertake the chanting of Sri Vishnu Sahasranam. And this particular video is intended for those who are already chanting to hopefully attain a certain greater benefit. And for those of you who may not be chanting, but this might inspire you, I hope, to perhaps commence that chanting and to also learn the essential meaning, which is the saram, the juice, the pith and essence of this. So that's the introduction. Let's get straight away into the topic. So, what is the Vishnu Sahasranamam and what is its essential meaning? So, the Vishnu Sahasranamam literally is the 1,000 names of Vishnu, and it occurs in a frame story. It occurs in the Mahabhārata. Now, the Mahabhārata is part of our itihasa. So, when we think of the canon of Hindu religious and spiritual literature, there is the Shruti, which is the Veda. There is Smriti, there is Puranam, and then there is Itihasam. So within that Itihasam, so-called history conveyed to us through the great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, within that Mahabharata, there is a segment. And in that segment, this Vishnu Sahasranamam appears. It is also within the Mahabharata that the great Bhagavad Gita, considered a part of the Smriti and a Prasthana Trayi for Advaita Vedantam, also occurs. And yet they are quite different, as we will find. So let us then go into understanding within this frame story. This Vishnu Sahasranamam starts as a question posed by Yudhishthira. Now I'm going to occasionally refer to this book, which is a translation, it's a Bhashyam of Shankaracharya on the Vishnu Sahasranamam. This particular, of course, the Mahabharata itself was composed by Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyas. And so, first, as a prelude, there is always a an invocation, you may say, to Vyasa, that he's addressed as Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhe Vasisthaya Namo Namah. So Vyasa is literally described as the form of Vishnu, and the form of the all-pervading Lord, appeared in this form as a guru to benefit all mankind and give us this beautiful Stotram. Stotram is a song of praise. Stuti, from Stuti is praise, Stotram. So the beginning, the frame story, there is a sage Vaishampayana, and Sri Vaishampayana Uvacha, he is setting the stage. He says, Shrutva dharma nasheshena pavanani cha sarvashaha Yudhishthira Shantanavam Punareva So this is such a beautiful classic frame. Yudhishthira, the aspirant asking the Guru, Bhishma in this case, a question. So what Sri Vaishampayana says is that this is what is happening. Having listened, Shrutva, Dharman, all the dharmas, Asheshina, without any remainder, so incompleteness, Pavanani, and what are the nature of these dharmas is that they are purifying. Just Sarvashaha, Yudhishthira himself asked Shantanavam, son of Shantanu, who is Bhishma, Punaha, again, he addressed him. So what did Yudhishthira say? Yudhishthira asks the kind of question that should animate and does animate the sincere sadhaka, the aspirant, every now and then. And this is the great power of this Stotram, is that the frame is so beautiful. So what does Yudhishthira ask? Yudhishthira vacha, Kimekam daivatam loke, kim vapyekam parayanam, stuvantah kam kamarchantah, prapnuyurmanava shubham. So this is a very beautiful question. He says, Kim, what is that? Ekam, one, Daivatam, divinity, loke, in the world, Kim vapyekam parayanam, stuvantah, and the one who is the, who may say the refuge, Kim vapyekam parayanam, stuvantah, by praising, stuvantah, kam, whom, Kam archantah, and by performing obeisance and pleasing whom, prapnuyuhu, may attain, manavaha, human beings, shubham, auspiciousness. In other words, what is that divinity praying to whom human being may attain auspiciousness, felicity? And this is, remember, after having asked without any remainder, the knowledge of all the dharmas. Right? So the stage is being set that this is something extremely significant. It is the highest, the most important. The next verse he says, Ko dharmas sarva dharmanam bhavatah paramo matah kim japan muchyate jantur janma samsara bandhanat. So this is again a very beautiful question. He says, Ko dharma, what is that conduct? What is that way of living? We talk about Sanatana Dharma as living in harmony with the natural law, with Rita. So, what is that Dharma? Of all the Dharmas, Bhavataha, according to you, Paramomata, that you consider the highest. Kim Japan, by the repetition of whose name, Muchyate is freed, Jantuhu, the living beings, from Janma Samsara, birth, and this Samsara Bandhanat, the bondage of being subjected to repeated birth, death, rebirth, and that cycle of samsara. So this is the question that Yudhishthira asks. That sets the frame for the Vishnu Sahasranamam. And then Sri Bhishma, replies, and I will just read the first verse. I think that will be adequate to answer the. He says, Jagat Prabhum Devadevam Anantam Purushottamam Stuvannama Sahasrena Purusha Satatotithaha. In a sense, he says, the Lord of the Jagat, which is all that moves, the Devadevam, God of the gods, Anantam, infinite, and Purushottamam, the highest form of Purusha, the supreme Purusha. Stuvan, by praising Nama Sahasrena, his 1,000 names, Purushaha Satototitha, this, the human being, attains to felicity. So, this is the sort of introduction. Now, then commences the 1,000 names. So, a question might then arise, well, then what is the saram? What is the essence of these 1,000 names? Because each of them is very beautiful. If you look up this text, a very nice Bhashyam and translation of all the names is given. In my opinion, the saram comes in the point where Parvati asks Ishvara Parvati Uvacha, Keno Payena Laguna, and that verse basically says that through what upaya, through what easy means can the person attain the saram of the Vishnu Sahasranam. And there uh, the response is Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanani. So Sri Ram Ram Ram. In this way, this repetition of the Ramanam is equivalent to the 1000 names. Sahasranama Tattulyam. It is equal to the 1000 names of Vishnu. And so that is the great mahima, the great importance given to this Rama. Rama literally means the mind that is immersed in Brahman, the delight that the mind experiences when it is immersed in Brahman. That is why that Ramanam is given such a great. Um, so, that is indeed the saram. Now, there are many other beautiful verses also. For instance, there is the one that says, Sarvagamanam acharam pratamam parikalpate achara prabhavo dharmo dharmasya prabhurachyuta. There are many beautiful additional verses pointing out the importance of conduct, acharam. How of all the scriptural injunctions, sarva, all the agamas, this conduct is highly prized because the Lord is achara prabho dharma, is dharma, and the Lord of dharma itself is achyuta. He who could not be moved. He was unshaken. He did not move. So there are additional, but again, the saram. So what is the prayojanam of all this? It is that we can bring our heart close to God in many ways, definitely chanting the 1000 names of Vishnu, but also recognizing that it's really very simple. Just that Sri Ram. That focus, because bhakti, which is our devotion for the Lord, should eventually also become focused to a one point, and then it leads to Gyan. It leads to that Brahma Gyan. Without that laser like focus, which we see in yoga also and meditation, that full fruit of bhakti, which is the Brahma Gyan, is not attained. And so now, what is the sambandham of all this? I've talked to you about the prayojanam, the Vishaya and the prayojanam. Now, how is it? The sambandham is how is it practiced today? So very often when we go to Vishnu Sahasranama chantings, and GRD Iyer has a very nice little point about this, we see people are eager to chant within a certain time. The focus is on the gathering. Sometimes there is food. The children are running around, etc. This is not conducive to gaining the saram. Although it is to be commended that people are keeping it up and it's encouraged. But then taking that one step further, which is learning to understand the meaning of the verses and then trying to understand their import, bringing that into a very meaningful way into one's sadhana, into one's practice, is a surefire way of succeeding in Bhakti Marg through the Vishnu Sahasranam. So, thank you very much, and I hope that was useful.